I vividly remember my Nintendo Power magazines. I would get one every month on what was my very first subscription. I loved getting them because they would provide me with hours of entertainment, knowledge about video games, and I could be the amazing gamer that I wanted to be. To this day, those magazines feel like one of the best purchases I've ever made, and I've bought houses. So a subscription can be a great thing if you spend your money on something you find value in, but with the sheer number of subscription services and plans coming out today, we need to arm ourselves with enough knowledge to know when we're going to be hit by one and when we should sign up for one. Even if I limit this just to the world of technology, which subscription plans are not limited to, I can still come up with 3 examples that came out just in the last couple of weeks. We had Wyze drop their person detection pay what you want service. If This Then That Pro was absolutely dropped on us. And Apple also put together a massive subscription called Apple One, which is a huge amount of money for a number of services. And I can even point out subscription services coming from companies that I'm betting you didn't think you were going to get them from. See, Habitat is actually coming out with one, and they're a locally controlled smart home hub that I'm betting most of you thought was safe from this kind of a trend. We can't, and I personally won't, bury my head in the sand and then miss all of the signs of a subscription plan coming to take away our hard-earned money. So in order to arm all of us with the knowledge that I think is necessary to kind of see this stuff coming, well, I think it's good to focus on a couple of example cases. And the first one is a company that's entirely customer focused and has been trying to be customer focused in the release of all of their products. This company, they produced a flagship camera that many of you have in your home and would be considered definitely a budget version, but over time, they have actually introduced subscription plans and now have 2. The product I'm talking about and the company is Wyze and their V2 camera that's sitting right here. This is when I started paying attention to Wyze and when many of you did, because they were selling millions of those cameras. But what matters is the profit they're making. It doesn't matter how many they sell if they're selling it and making $0. They have to have some profit because that allows them to go and hire new staff and create new products and grow the company and service debt that we know a company like Wyze and many upstarts do have because of where they receive funding. Over time, what happens to the profit that they've generated off the sale of a camera is that it's eaten away by things like support and returns and other normal company costs, and something that we didn't have 15 or 20 years ago, which is software updates, security updates, and the addition of new features and new capabilities. Now, Wyze had one big mountain to climb here, and that mountain was person detection. And they went out and they partnered with a company who was going to allow them to actually put person detection on the camera itself. And this is a really important advancement for a company like Wyze because it meant they had no additional cloud service costs. And the story goes that Apple buys that company, Wyze loses it, they've given the feature to their customer base and they have to replace it. So now they are on the hook for additional development time internally, they have to do it themselves, and then they have cloud service processing to do. So I think the saying goes that they were up a certain kind of creek without a paddle, and that's exactly what happened. They recognized that they had an ongoing cost now that was going to hit them for the sale of a budgetary camera. And so if you think about over time, their margins being eaten away, they recognize this too. And now you have a subscription plan that is a pay what you want, but there's a little caveat on there, guys. And it basically says, if we don't make enough from the pay what you want service, we're gonna change what we're doing. And that's just one example. And I talked about Habitat earlier in the video, and I think that's a really great example of a company that goes out, they sell you a one-time product, and then they have ongoing costs for maintaining, upgrading, and adding features to that product. So when you think about that situation as a business person, If you have one bad year of sales or a competitor comes along, but you're still on the hook for all of these existing devices out in the market that you are paying cloud services for, you're upgrading, you're updating, and you have all of those ongoing costs, well, you could turn a business upside down very quickly. So the average business person is going to see this and make an adjustment. So they're lining up their costs with their revenue, and that is a lot of what's going on with the subscription services that we are seeing. Now, this doesn't get companies off the hook, and don't get me wrong, I still get very angry when I see services that are just there to grab money from us. And I pointed one of these out actually in a recent review. I showed you guys the Fitbit Versa 2, and the watch was logging all of the details that I wanted, and it was storing them on the cloud, but I had to pay $10 a month just to see the little graph that was already in the app. Ridiculous. To further arm you, there's a couple of examples of company types or situations that I can give you where I think we're going to see some subscription plans show up. And then I'm going to talk about ones where I think we might actually get away from them. The first thing is the situation with Wyze. They're selling a budgetary product, a one-time fee, and then they have ongoing costs for security, maintenance, upgrades, new things like that. And that will also hold true with companies that are selling multiple low-margin products because they're going to have the same set of problems just with many products. There's a whole system around public companies that drives them to have to create better and better profits, better and better profit margins, and find new sources of revenue. And I think whenever you look at public companies, I think you can look at a company that is eyeing revenue from subscriptions. And if you take those things, I think you can see that a lot of companies are going to come out with subscription services, and you need to find a couple of situations where maybe that won't happen. So I've got a couple of examples where I see the possibility of avoiding a lot of subscription services. And number one, I think you have to guard yourself by how many different products you buy. And that's why I kind of focus on a couple of systems that you can bring products into. But one of the other situations is when a company has a bit of a different goal. There's this company that I know of that has literally thousands of products that they would like to sell you, and they have a pretty good profit margin on most of them. Now, a few years ago, they went out and acquired a smart home hub solution, or a smart home system really in general, and when they did that, they kind of started to position it to bring people into the overall ecosystem of all of their products. And the company I'm talking about is Samsung, and SmartThings is a bit of a loss leader at this point for Samsung. And if you don't know what I mean by that, well, the console companies do this all the time. They sell you a console that is undervalued versus what they should probably be charging for that product, but it brings you into the system and you start to buy accessories and you start to sign up for different things, and they build revenue out of all of those other components and massive profitability. And I'm not saying that there won't be SmartThings subscriptions, because there's already one for their cameras if you want to store things on the cloud, but in general, their goal is not to get you on 10 different subscription plans. Another situation that I can talk about are actually two smart home lighting companies, and these are high profit or high margin sellers on the market. And the fact is, if they brought in a subscription service to their products, I don't think many of us would buy them. We're already getting really great features, and we're already paying a lot for those products. Now, of course, I'm talking about LifeX and Signify, or Philips Hue. The only caveat is Signify is a publicly traded company, and they are huge and always after additional revenue sources, so you could do the math there. I want to bring this up as kind of a paradigm shift in the whole subscription business, and this is a different way that maybe you can start to think about your tech and your smart home in general. When you look at Amazon's release of their new Halo band, the pricing is actually really reasonable up front. But what you're signing up for is either, if you sign up now, it's $65, it'll be $100 soon. You get a smart fitness watch, and you get all of these great features right off the bat. But there's a $4 per month subscription fee that guarantees you updates, and it continues all of these advanced features that you're going to want. Now, that is, I'll tell you, a highly subsidized price that is based on people continuing a subscription plan. And I think we're going to see things like this, especially with easily replaceable devices. If you think about a camera or a smart speaker or a smart display, those are easily replaceable items in your home. The new versions could come in under a subscription plan and just simply rotate your home over time. There's a couple of subscription plans that have made sense to me. And you know what? The Nest Aware subscription service, I didn't want to maintain a DVR. And I also like the new features that I'm seeing coming from Google. And I have a ton of their speakers and displays. So that, once the pricing had come in line for me, was something that I could go forward with and get. As a result, Wyze person detection didn't make sense to me. I've never had to buy the Samsung SmartThings upgraded security camera plan. If This Then That Pro actually makes a little sense for me, so I'm gonna look at that on the pay what you want option. But I think that right now is a turning point, and that we need to come together. We need to share what we've found value in, and we need to share what we did not find value in, what we got caught off guard by, and what we saw coming and why we saw that coming. And I think if you guys leave all of these different comments below, we will start to generate a set of comments and a set of real resources for people to understand what they're getting into before they go out and buy this tech. Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching, and of course, don't hate, automate.